I think we have some people there. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a Trail Talk Live on Friday night. Me, Aaron Chillons, and Ricki Wynn coming to us live from Chamonix on the mountain broadband. First off, how's it going, Ricki? Okay?
Bonjour, how's it going? As I say here in France. Look, for me, it's been epic the last couple of weeks, so I'm excited to talk to you next week, maybe about me, but let's talk about you and the Bob Graham round today.
Yeah, so let's just set the scene. Stuck out a call for questions on Instagram over the past few days. Got a load of good ones in, a couple of duplicates as well. I've collated them, sent them over to Ricki, and he's going to fire them over in whatever order he feels like, and we'll see what we can get through. Maybe over the course of 30-ish minutes, we'll take check. And also, before we just dive into that, next week we're going to do a live with Ricki all about the TDS training, as that is kind of peaking now and you're about to take your foot off the gas a little bit before you go for TDS. So anyway, we see we've got some people in the chat. Yeah, hi guys, Steve and Pat, good to see you guys. But look, I'll pass the controller over to you, Ricki. So fire away. I'm at your beck and call.
Just to make it clear, like lately I've been speaking Italian, French. I'm going to be speaking English today in an Irish accent. That's what it's going to go like today. So the first question, Aaron, is compare post-race satisfaction of the Bob Graham round to a sanctioned race. Like basically, like does one have greater satisfaction meaning than the other? Great question.
Okay. Yeah, it was a good one. I come from a regular viewer, contributor to the show. Much appreciated. Look, it's very much like an endurance effort of, the 20-hour range. It felt like a race. I tackled it like a race. The logistics were maybe a little bit harder than a race just because you're um, recruiting pacers and support crew and things like that. So in that sense, it felt like a race, but satisfaction wise, it probably felt a little bit more because I haven't done a fell run round since I don't know, like maybe 7 years. Not one of this kind of length or difficulty. So it sort of felt really satisfying to kind of come back home, so to speak, to do that type of event, that type of terrain, that type of sort of community feel, real fell running at its core. So in that sense, it felt like just like any other race, but it was way more satisfying because I haven't properly been into the fell running scene in years and years.
Yeah, but plus you're getting like the fact you're basically the race director, you're the chaperone, you're doing everything, So the satisfaction when it all does go well, it's got to be huge, right? It's got to be huge. All right, next question. I didn't ask this question, right? But do you think you could have went quicker?
I don't know the questions that you have in your head. You told me you had some, and I don't know what they are, so they'll be surprises. Do I think it could have went quicker? Yes, but you have to plan to go quicker. And I was going off a plan, and I was on plan until the weather made it too hard to stay on the plan, and that's when I fell off. So, like George Foster, who was out there supporting and taking pictures all day, he said something interesting to me on the way home on Sunday night. He said, "Look, if you had went out there on an 18.5-hour schedule, you would have finished in 19. There's fuck all you could do about the wind and the rain and the storm that came in." And that was kind of a settling perspective. Whenever I thought about it, I thought, "Oh yeah, that's cool. Makes sense." But like I initially was thinking 17 hours would be a proper push to do this, but I just couldn't get pacers. So I dropped it to 19 and started to get people. People were like, "Yeah, I can do that. I'm into that." Maybe in hindsight, I should have went 18, and I've no idea why I went from 17 to 19. It, I guess because I felt like if I went on 17 and had a really shit day, I could still do 19. So that was like the 2 hour window of what I thought was possible. But yeah, maybe I should have went out on 18-hour schedule, which actually wouldn't have been that much harder or more intense than what I did because like so I paced it the whole way, and I was able to get. I had timing splits for each peak from the Bob Graham site, and I hit every peak for 14 hours within a minute. I was either on target, I was a minute ahead, 2 minutes ahead, minute behind, and at the start of every leg, because I'd slammed a load of nutrition at the transition, I maybe lost 5 or 6 minutes on the next climb, and by the 2 or 3 peaks into it, I'd already regained that time, and I sort of felt like I'm not expending any energy that over and above just what happens through like time. So yeah, I think I could have went quicker, but it is what it is, and I ran what I ran, and I accept it, and I appreciative of it.
Yeah, a big kudos to Pat as well for keeping us updated as well, because every time you came to a checkpoint, he was letting us know that you were bang on time, bang on schedule for what you had set out to try and do, especially when the weather turned, you know. So big shout out to Pat. What were the highs and lows of the round?
Highs and lows. Yeah, I don't think I really had that many. There wasn't too many highs or lows. I certainly felt some relief and a real sense of let's fucking go. Once I touched the moot hall and started, like it just felt like okay, great. That stress up to the start of any race. Once the whistle goes or the gun goes, and you start running, that all disappears, and all you've got to do is manage a very small amount of things: your effort, your nutrition, and your navigation, and that was it. So there was definitely a relief and a high of setting off, and maybe also then the next one was coming into Threlkeld, which is the end of leg one, and I come in there sort of 2 or 3 minutes ahead of schedule, and I just felt like I said to Jarlath, the guy that was pacing me, "Yeah, this is a good sign coming in here a couple of minutes ahead of schedule, and don't feel like just felt like I was out on a long run with a mate having a chat. I didn't feel like I'd burnt any matches, and we probably ran up Skiddaw a bit quicker than schedule anyway. But so that was a bit of a high, and then maybe the only real low or a couple of maybe lowish points was a couple of hours into the bad weather. I just felt like the wind was sort of battering me down and wearing on me, and it was all in the side of your face, all in the front of your face. You were slipping on the rocks. Like I wasn't able to use poles on some of the climbs because the rocks were so slippy that I was slipping, and I had like 3 near misses of breaking a lecky pole. And like I broke a lecky pole 2 months ago, and that's 100 quid. So I handed the poles off and said, "I'm good. I don't want to break them." So I'd say that was maybe a bit of a low around maybe around steeple, sort of halfway-ish around leg four. Maybe one other low-ish. Somebody said to me near the end that I think it was actually George. Whenever I come into Honister at the end of leg four, I basically had lost 30 minutes after being right on schedule for 19:00 all day. And George said, "Oh, 19 and a half still on." And like 19 and a half for me meant as much as 19:45, kind of meant nothing because I either wanted to be on schedule and then dip below it on the road section, or my kind of B goal was beat 19:28, which was a time I ran for a ranking round, an Irish round, which is shorter. less climbing, but I was 8 years younger, and I thought, well, it'd be pretty cool if you could beat a ranking time with something that has 2,500 meters more, similar terrain, and it's 10K, 10, 12K longer. So 19 and a half meant fuck all. So like I kind of struggled on the road section at the end because it was like, what's the difference in running 5 minute K and a 6 minute K? Like there was no, I didn't feel like I was that motivated to push. So anyway, long answer.
Yeah, but 9,000 meters in your legs, like it's people don't really understand how much elevation is in the Bob Graham round. I don't think they know, So to have 9,000 in your legs, it's very hard to go from a 6 minute K to a five, let's say 30 or a 5 minute, you really need to push, and then the weather wasn't in your favor either. So, still it's huge, And on that, like on the 19 and a half side of things, let's say how did you put the plan together for 19 hours?
Here, mate, you're good at this. I think I should be your co-host some weeks. uh, so the Bulgrim Round website has a schedule planner, and you can put in the date, your start time, and it shows you how much darkness you'll have to run in, and it gives you splits for each of the 42 peaks and the road crossings and things like that. I also used a website called Ultra Pacer, which I used for Swiss Alps 100 miler last year. I used it for UT-LAC in June as well. And whenever I put in 19-hour schedule into both of them, they both finished at 19 hours, but Ultra Pacer was way off, like way off, but it gradually got closer to, as it got towards the end. But long story short, the Bob process and schedule was bang on. Those were the splits I was hitting. Up Skiddaw in 1:15, I hit it in 1:12. Down into Threlkeld in 3:15, I come in 3:12 or something along those lines. It was unbelievably accurate. So kudos to those guys. I guess they've got thousands of attempts and 2,500 or more finishes to gather that data and make it reliable. So yeah, the Bob schedule is the way to go on this. It was great.
Yeah, and again, it's more great information for somebody that's looking to try it for the first time or something like that, or hasn't been on the course that much and just wants to give it a go, like a bucket list race or something, to actually have something like that in place. I think that's brilliant. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's something else. Like I didn't really have any summer or spring running on the course to reference, so I couldn't look at a leg one Ricki and go, okay, well I ran that, super easy on a long run in 3.5, 3:45, whatever it was. I looked at that and I ran it in February in snow, and it took me 4.5 hours. So I had no way of knowing how quick or whatever I would go. I could just look at previous um, average kilometer splits for 100K, 100 mile, similar type of vert per K, and then kind of throw a bit of a guesstimate factor into it. But yeah, like the Bob schedule calculator is awesome. So definitely anyone that's thinking of doing the Bob, use it for your training and use it for the race.
Yeah, brilliant. For all us nerds, geeks, whatever you want to call us in the trail world, your favorite and most useful piece of kit or gear?
All right, I've probably got a couple of bits here. So I didn't have to run with a pack, which was amazing. Although you probably know, I wasn't running with a pack all through spring, summer in the Alps because I sort of knew that this was coming and I wouldn't have to run with a pack, and a pack is extra weight. And I like to pick my routes based on where I can get water rather than running with two bottles up front. So I ran with the naked belt all day, and what I kept in that was a pace sheet, which I eventually handed off. Didn't I handed it off so I could just ask someone where are we, rather than look at it myself. I always carried gloves, and I always carried a layer. So early on, that was a windbreaker gilet, and then later on, that was a Gore-Tex raincoat, and then one piece of nutrition. So this is probably my favorite piece of gear for the round. It ain't sexy, but it was the 150 milliliter soft flask full of gel, because it basically, that's all I had to carry. It was a little bit like a little soft flask, and I would just squirt that every 30 odd minutes. And then once it was done, fire it to a pacer and grab a new one. So it was just so convenient. And if I'm racing an ultra trail, that's what I'll use as well. I keep one of those in the belt, but I'm obviously having to wear a pack. So I would say the naked belt and the soft flask combo was just perfect. I wouldn't change a thing there. And then in terms of like apparel and stuff, I did change tops and jackets throughout. And I started with a headband because it was humid and hot. But my favorite, the one piece of clothes that I didn't take off all day was the half tights. My hot boy, sexy boy summer half tights, which I'd shortened, and I kind of didn't take them off because I didn't have a change of shorts. Gore sent me some new ones, and they didn't arrive in time, so I kept the one pair of shorts on all day. Everything else got changed. So half tights, naked belt, soft flask. Don't change it.
There you go. There you go. Actually, on my run today, Leo Boyle commented on the fact that you cut your shorts, that you cut them yourself with a scissors. And we were just laughing at, like, what sort of a madman does that with a brand new pair of shorts? But look, you wear them, they're comfortable, and they work, and that's the best thing you can ask for your gear. It has to work. Yeah.
Mate, zero chafe, zero blisters, zero anything. Like the only damage I have in my body is from the falls where I cut myself on rocks. But I think this is a first that I've had no, like, I'm not really prone to blisters or chafing, but you do get a little bit. Zero, absolutely nothing. So
Mm.
super happy with that.
Yeah, and especially not having to carry a pack. A pack is one of those kind of things, especially if it's wet or even if it's hot and you're sweating lots. You usually get a lot of chafe around your back, on your rib cage, stuff like that. So it's always great to run light. Funniest moment out on the Bob Graham round.
Uh, oh yeah, yeah. So bit of a, it's funny, but it's random as well. So coming off Scuffle Pike, peak before the last peak, Scaffell on leg three. And it's kind of like technical-ish, loose grind, rocky grind, heading over towards Lord's Rake and the West Wall Traverse. And I smelled the joint. Like I was like, I shouted ahead because the two pacers were always ahead of me. I shouted, "Do you smell that?" And then as we got closer, but I could smell this for like 5 minutes before I could see anybody. There's like a little mountain rescue box. I wouldn't even, it's not a hut, it's not a cabin, it's literally like a mini storage container. And there was this guy sitting in it smoking a joint, and you run past right in front of it. And we kind of like just exchanged like nods and laughs, like, all right, mate, have a good one. Good luck getting down. So that was random, but it gave me a bit of a laugh. Though,
Yeah, and probably came at a time when you needed a laugh too.
yeah, distraction.
Yeah, okay. Another good question. Can be a tough question, but I mean, would you do anything differently?
Um, what would I do different? Haven't thought about this one. What would I do different? I mean, I probably should have had a faster schedule. I probably shouldn't have changed the date from Saturday to Sunday because Saturday's weather was good. I changed it to Sunday because I couldn't get pacers, but I sort of feel now that pacers would have come out of the woodwork and I would have got people. But I changed it from Saturday to Sunday because Bardale Fell Race was on Saturday, and it's not that people were saying, "Oh, I can't help because I'm doing it." People were saying you won't get help because people will be running that race. But nobody that helped on Sunday ran that race either, and quite a few people actually came up to the lakes. Like it felt like I was well supported by people from Leeds on my round,
That's
which
class. That's
it's
class.
cool. Like, so I kind of wish if I was doing it again, I wouldn't change it to the Sunday. I would have done it on Saturday, and I would have went for a faster schedule.
Do you think, like, this is me, right? This is a question from me. Let's say, do you think instead of spending, your summer here in France, in the mountains in slightly better weather, would it have been an advantage for you to have been in the lakes training day in, day out there? Do you think that would have made you run a little bit quicker?
I mean, there's probably two ways to look at it. It I would have had more specific um, stimulus on like the supporting muscles and things that you would feel on rocky terrain, descending through scree and stuff. But the sort of routes that I pick in Chamonix anyway. Like I very rarely run along like the Petit Balcon Sud or Grand Balcon Nord. I go for the stuff that is as steep as I can find and as technical as I can find. So I trained on harder terrain. I trained on steeper terrain, bigger climbs. Nothing in the bob felt hard until it was wet. And
Yeah.
like I kind of like, what can you do? That was out of my control. And unless you were training in the wet on the wet rock, which I guess if you're in a Lake District, you probably would have been. You may have been. I would have been more used to it, but like sort of caught me a little bit by surprise that the rock when it was wet was so slippy because normally the mutants are fine on wet rock, regardless. Yes, there's not as sticky as if it was dry, but it's not like these rocks felt oily. Like
Yeah.
whenever all of my falls were when I was climbing, wasn't even descending. I was climbing up. I was going slow, and my feet would like slip off a rock and I'd down in my face.
That's a great point. I was only thinking about this what since I've been here in Chamonix, and when I'm running and like, every day, it's not always sunny. There is rain every now and again, and you will get a real heavy shower. Everything is drowned. The rocks are drowned, but they're not slippy. My anything that I have with Vibram on the outsole, I am fine on it. The grip is still just as good as if it was dry. That's at home in Ireland, or let's say the Lake District, something different. There's like moss or slime or something on the rocks that just make it like running across ice. It's so different. It
Yeah.
definitely is. Yeah.
So that was one thing that would have potentially helped. But if you the climbs in the Bob, the biggest one the biggest climb is 600 after Skiddaw. Well, let's take it out of the equation because you're doing it on completely fresh legs straight out of the gate. The other big climbs are 550, I think, at Dunmill Raise and 650 coming out of Wasdale. And you know yourself, like 500 and 600 meter climbs are like the square root of fuck all in the Alps. Like you don't like you don't turn around until you've done 1,000 meters on an easy day.
Yeah.
So those climbs didn't feel difficult, which meant that when you were doing a climb that was 350 meters, it was like a blink. And some of the climbs even that were 300-400 meters, they were on like a 300-400 meter climb in Chamonix would be over like a mile, like a couple of k's. Here in the lakes, it was maybe spread over just a way easier gradient. So felt really strong. I could have climbed all day. I could have continued to climb uh, longer than what I had to. It was really like the weather and the slick rock that really screwed things up. But I don't think I would have benefited enough to stay in England and train for it.
Yeah, and France is way better anyway. So just I can vouch for that.
The bread's much nicer.
Everyone wants to know, for Aaron Shimmons, what is next?
Yeah, I've sort of been thinking about this one. So, like before going into the Bob, I was thinking I could do one more effort after this, and I have a spare week between UTMB and the Tour de Jean, where I'm crewing. And the Sunday of UTMB, the Swiss Peaks 360 starts, and they still had a couple of places left. And I'd emailed them and was like, "Do you like if I want to get a place, can I get a place?" And they're like, "Yeah, we can get you in." So I was thinking that I would maybe do that, but upon completion, like I said to my coach almost instantly, um, the next morning or even that night or whatever it was, shutting it down. I'm not interested in, if it was just a case of packing your bag and going and doing an effort, then yeah, maybe. But I just don't want that logistics, that pre-race, and all that feeling again. I feel like this has been a really long block. Like I started training for my goal race at the start of April, and then when UT got cancelled, I just rolled it on into this. So I essentially had like, I don't know, 20 weeks of training for the Bob Graham with uh if you think of UT as a training race, because I only took like a down week afterwards. So I'm not going to do anything more this spring summer, but I do have a little idea that I'm going back to Ireland for Christmas, and I've run the Dennis Rankin round, which for anyone listening is like, that's the Northern Irish. It's kind of more like the Irish Bob Graham because it differs quite a lot from like the Wicklow round and things like that. So the Dennis Rankin round, it's 90 to 95 kilometers, 6,500 meters of gain. My club, Barf, was the originators of it. Dennis Rankin was a original member. He was the first Irishman to run the Bob Graham round, and so we set this up whenever he passed away in 2013 in his sort of memory, because he was just like an important figure in Irish mountain running. So I think that I'm going to go back at Christmas and try and beat my 8-year younger self on the Bob Graham round in darkness. So that seems like a challenge that kind of gets me excited. So I ran 1922 for an anti-clockwise ranking round, and I ran 1928 for a clockwise in, I think, 2016 and 17. So I like, if it was summer, I think I'd go back there and run that in 17 hours. So winter, you don't know what weather you're going to get at winter, but I'm also going to have a short window of when I can do it, because I'll probably go back for a week and take the best day that I can get. I won't have crew or pacers in the sense that you have on the Bob, so I'll have to carry more. But like, Ricki, you know, whenever something kind of gets you a wee bit excited and you sort of feel it in here, and you're like, oh, yeah, I got a bit of buzz about that. I've got a wee bit of a buzz about that because I've been thinking about a winter ranking round for years. And I just think like I can chill out for the next month or so, run and enjoy the mountains whenever I'm in the Alps, and then I can get back into training. I can go and do some training camps in Snowdonia in the lead up to the ranking, and then I can hit that for a Christmas. So I'm excited about that. And then some of the people who are watching will know from chat during the Bob that now that the Bob is done, what is the other thing that interests you in the UK? And I kind of fancy a crack at the Paddy Buckley round. Like, I love that type of shit, to be fair. And I love during winter. I love like a target of for the long runs. So I'll go to for the Bob over the past few years. I would go up to the Lake District for a week and just train on the sections, like just do back to back days, do my hill reps on the course, do everything, just kind of immerse myself in it and sort of feel it. So I think from after Christmas or even like leading up to this ranking round, I'll think about the Paddy Buckley in the way that I thought about the Bob and use it as my kind of week long mountain training camps as I escape the canal paths of London in the colder months. So that's what's next and what's potentially next after that.
Yeah, and it's deadly. It's like you're getting to kind of kill two birds with the one stone, because like while training for the one in Northern Ireland, you're already doing recce, you're doing reconnaissance, you're doing everything else for that other round. So they both tie in. They're both similar kind of weather conditions as well. So yeah, definitely excited to see that happen. I suppose I'll have to ask, like, who are the people you want to thank? Who's the crew? Who's the pacers? Who's the lads that helped make this happen? Like,
Absolutely. Like this couldn't have happened without the support. The support was amazing. It was one of those things that happened and people took the lead and showed up, and it was just a great experience coming in on each leg and like thanking the guys who you've just spent several hours running with, chatting with, getting to know, and then picking up two new guys and just having a whole new conversation. So it was like a real like reset each leg. But on leg one, I had Jarlath McKenna, who neither of us really knew beforehand. He certainly didn't, but I googled him. He's from Northern Ireland and he's lived in England for 20 years, but he is fast. So George Foster was initially meant to support leg one, which yes, that's like getting supported by Killian on if you're doing a Bob Graham round. Um, and then George, for whatever reason, wasn't able to, but was still able to show up and do the filming. But Jarlath in July won the West Highland Way in the third fastest time ever, 100-miler, 14 and a half hours. The week before the Bob support, he ran the Lakeland 50 and won it. Last year, he won Lakes in a day. So it was just great sharing leg one with him with a Northern Irish accent, just like shooting the shit in a way that you can only kind of do with someone that kind of knows where you're from. And oh, you from there? Oh, it's Ireland. Like you do say things like, do you
yeah,
know such and such?
yeah. So surely you know that fella. Yeah.
I went to school with his brother.
Yeah. Or I played football with his father. Like that kind of way. That's Ireland in a nutshell, man.
So Jarlath on leg one, on leg two, Rich and Ollie paced me, and those guys were great. So I swapped from one to two pacers, and the way I worked with two pacers on the following couple of legs was I just kind of set the scene at the start and said what I kind of wanted, and I said like, you guys go out front. I want you to run everything you would want to run, and I'm gonna keep up. And if I can't keep up, that's fine. But you run when it's time to run, and I come after you. And whenever we get to the top of a climb, I'll hand you my poles. You hand me a bottle, and we just did that all day, like all 42 peaks. Hike, hand off, drink, run, and that worked well. So those guys were great on leg two. Ollie kind of took the lead on the nav, and he has lots of experience there. And he actually came to support because Tom Lynch, who was on leg three, went and recruited him for me, and said because Tom was going to do leg two, and then leg three came up a bit short. So as Tom said, look, I'll do leg three, and I've got a friend who I think will do leg two. So then Tom and Steve, who I see in the chat, were on leg three, and we did the same thing. Like, I'll use the poles, hand you the poles, you hand me a bottle, you run, I chase. And Tom, I have to say, was brilliant. Like Tom, I reached out to Tom because he's actually run all of the rounds, but I knew him because he registered a ranking round earlier on this year. So I pinged him an email because I look after registrations for the ranking. I pinged him an email and said, look, I'm doing the Bob such and such a date. Do you want to help? Do you know anyone that would want to help? And he was like, me, I'll help. I'll help. So
That's
Tom is an
deadly.
absolute
Yeah.
Tom's a legend. He also has a lot of experience doing mountain marathons. So he turned around to me quite early on and said, I hope you don't mind contouring. I know all the lines. Just follow me. I'm like, on you go. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Let's run.
Yeah. Yeah. So that you know what I mean? Especially on that leg as well, where you're getting tired, you're getting fatigued. The last thing you want to be doing is checking this, checking that, making sure you're on the right track, the best line. It's probably getting dark again as well. So having somebody with that experience is top class, top class.
Yeah. So Tom definitely wins the GOAT award of the support round of the support runners. Then at Wasdale for leg 4, picked up Ollie and another Ollie and Martin. And similar sort of deal. Martin maybe pushed off a little bit too far a few times. He had to get wound back because he was disappearing into the mist. And I was saying to Ollie, where the fuck did he go? He's meant to be showing us the lines here, and he's having his own run here, having the crack. But strong runner, bob finisher, knew the lines. We just couldn't find him a few times, but Ollie from Preston, and he came up, and a good guy as well. Spent a load of time with him because he was always quite close to me and felt like he was quite attentive as well. Like he was saying to me, maybe because leg 4 was getting tough and the weather was closing in, and he's like, "Do you want a drink? Do you want a gel?" And like at some points in leg 4, he just would hold the bottle out to my face, and I'd just be like, it was like a Formula One pit stop. So those guys were great, and Ollie actually continued onto leg 5, and he finished it out with me.
Ah,
And
class,
then
class.
last thing, Steve, who did leg 3, he actually met us on the road section and ran the last sort of 6, 7 ish k, and he sort of stopped me from fucking things up at the end. So thank you, Steve, because I left the last aid station with a head torch. And although it was fine to run without a head torch, the road section was covered in trees at several places, and it was just dark, and there was cars. So Steve saved the day there. Like turn your head torch on so we don't get run over. But yeah, gotta thank those guys on the support. Patrick and Carol were absolute legends all day, looking after the support runners, looking after me. They were there at the start, even though like I was just saying, "Hi, we'll see you in a few hours," and like they very well could have just turned up at 5 in the morning or whatever it was. Ferried the runners around all day, fed the support runners when they finished their legs. Carol made flapjacks and the tea and all that sort of stuff. So absolute legends. And another guy,
Incredible,
Duncan,
yeah.
he did a bit of support driving as well, and came down into the end of leg 2, and he's like, "Aaron, how's it going?" And Duncan, I'm like, "Duncan, I know the name," but he goes, "We did the first climb of Swiss Alps together last year. Do you remember?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." So I don't even think Patrick knew that whenever Duncan said, "I'll support." So like those are the guys, and then obviously George, like there all day with the with the camera, the GoPro, and the big shooter. I think every time we saw George, he had new shoes on because he got absolutely soaked every time.
Mm.
So like I can't thank those people enough. They made it possible coming into the end of leg 4. Without that change of clothes, there was no leg 5. Like I was
Yeah.
soaked. I changed every layer just to be able to keep going because the wind and the rain. So yeah, those guys made it possible.
Yeah, like just hearing that, like I'm getting goosebumps all over from the support, from the help that you do get from people. You know, there's nothing quite like that. Like that's incredible. Like, you know, you can do self-supported rounds and that like on your own solo. But I mean, what you just described there, like, man, it has me kind of like I gotta do something like that. You know, it's so cool. Like this sport, it's so cool.
Yeah, special.
Yeah,
Anything else, Ricki? Or we should we check the chat for some questions?
yeah. Let's check the chat.
Anyone, if you've got any questions, drop them in the chat and we'll tackle them. Lots of chatter, maybe not so many questions. That might be a indication that we've. Oh, Ricki is Ricki eyeing up the Bob. I think Ricki needs to do the ranking round first.
I don't know. Like, to be honest, like I trained over on the Bob Graham round maybe 4 years ago. I was training for a race here in Ireland, and my younger brother was training for a race over in Norway. So we said, let's meet in the middle. And we ended up in the Lake District. We did 4 or 5 days there, did the round in training, loved it. And we were giving a big talk saying me and my brother would go back, and my older brother as well. And we'll get the round done as a trio, you know. But it just never happened, you know. But it's definitely on the list. It's on the list along with a lot of other things, but definitely. And now that I'm after hearing this crack, I'm definitely thinking about it. Yeah.
It's more than 100 odd K and all of that vert. It's so much more than the stats. It's so much more than a challenge in the Lake District. Like it's a community thing wrapped around a really hard ass route. So yeah, it would be cool to see you do that. I think you would run a good time. I think you could, like, if I can run that sort of time, then you gotta be in the, I mean, 14, 15 hour window, maybe. Like
Uh,
if I think about some of the Irish people that you've raced against and their times on the ranking, yeah, more I think about that, I would think you must be somewhere in like 14 or something. So that'll be pretty cool to see.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I don't like the rain.
If I had a run on Saturday, it wouldn't have been wet.
Yeah, yeah,
So Steve, you've got a question in there. Let's just let everyone know now, Ricki, before we wrap it up. We're on 43 minutes. I think the
yeah,
questions have dried up. We've flogged that one. Next weekend, we're going to do another Trail Talk Live, and I'm going to be asking the questions to this man about his TDS training. So I will be sticking the question box up on Instagram. Ricki will be doing the same. So watch for that this coming week. And yeah, we will announce the time. It might be next Friday. We're not quite sure, but it'll be next weekend at a time that suits the man himself as he tries to peak for TDS in just a few weeks, which I will be supporting. My turn to pay something back and do some support duties. So I'm looking forward to that. Any closing comments, Ricki, before we shut it down?
um, no, the only thing, I suppose, we're all super proud of you, man. We're all super happy that you got it done. And look, it's great to see it. It's great to see all the training, all the work you put into it paid off. So look, massive kudos to you, man. Yeah.
I don't think it's seen as many notifications on the WhatsApp when I ever took my phone out of airplane mode, and I enjoyed scrolling through and seeing the chat amongst people about it and stuff. And yeah, it was pretty fucking cool. So on that
Yeah.
note, everyone, thanks for tuning in. Ricki, thanks for hosting this one. Have a good run tomorrow, and we'll catch you all soon. See you later.